The ink was still wet when Józef Kowalski heard the first gunshot. His hands froze over the document, a perfectly forged Ken Carter. German identification papers that could mean the difference between life and a cattle car to Auschwitz. The basement workshop smelled of chemicals and fear. Outside on Soroka Street, the Gestapo was conducting another raid. Józef didn't move. He had learned long ago that survival meant stillness. The second gunshot came closer. He carefully placed the document between two sheets of blotting paper, his movements precise despite the trembling in his fingers. 34 years old, and his hands had aged a decade in 2 years of forgery. Each line he drew, each stamp he replicated, each photograph he carefully mounted. All of it was a quiet rebellion against the machinery of death that had consumed his city. But tonight, something was different. The knock on the door wasn't the careful tap of the resistance. It was urgent, desperate. Józef moved the oil lamp away from the documents and climbed the narrow stairs from his basement workshop. Through the cracked door, he saw her, Sarah Lewin, 23 years old, holding a bundle against her chest. He knew her face from the photographs. He had made papers for her husband 3 months ago. Her husband, who was now dead. "They're coming," she whispered. "The entire block. They know someone here is helping us." Józef pulled her inside, his mind already calculating. The Gestapo had been tightening their grip on Kazimierz, the old Jewish quarter. His operation had remained hidden for 18 months, an eternity in occupied Kraków. But every day brought the noose closer. Sarah unwrapped the bundle. A child, perhaps 6 months old, stared up at him with dark, quiet eyes. "I need papers," she said. "For both of us. They said you could—" "I have one set," Józef interrupted. His voice was flat, practitioner. It was easier that way. "Only one. Finished tonight. There's no time to make another." The lie came easily. There was time, barely, but time nonetheless. But there was something else, something he hadn't told her. His contact, Tomasz, had been arrested that morning. Józef had received word 2 hours ago through their courier network. Tomasz had been beaten, tortured in the basement of the Pomorska Street Gestapo headquarters. And Tomasz knew things. He knew about the printing press hidden in the furniture factory. He knew about the photography studio that supplied blank documentation. He knew about the chemical supplier who provided the special inks. And he knew about Józef. The question wasn't if Tomasz would break. Everyone broke eventually. The question was when. Józef had perhaps 12 hours, maybe less. Every minute he spent in this building, every minute the evidence remained in his workshop, brought the entire network closer to collapse. The resistance had protocols for this. Destroy everything, disappear, rebuild elsewhere with new identities and new methods. But the woman in front of him didn't care about protocols. "Please," Sarah said. The baby began to cry, a thin, hungry sound. "Just me, then. If you can only save one of us, save her." Józef turned away. He couldn't look at them. His own daughter would have been 3 years old now. He'd held her only once, in the Kraków ghetto, before the SS separated them. His wife Rachel had tried to shield her, and they'd shot Rachel for it. The last thing Józef saw before they shoved him onto a work detail was his daughter's face, crying in an officer's arms. He never saw her again. That was why he'd started this work. Every document he forged was a prayer for redemption, a bargaining chip with a God he no longer believed in. Save enough people, maybe the universe would balance itself. Maybe somewhere, someone had saved his daughter, but the universe didn't work that way. "Wait here," he said. Józef descended into the workshop and stared at the document on his desk. The Ken cart identified the bearer as Maria Kowalska, a Catholic Pole from Tarnów, 24 years old. No distinctive markings. The photograph showed Sarah from 6 months ago when her face still had hope in it. Next to it lay his contingency plan. A small leather satchel containing the templates, the stamps, the blank documents. Everything needed to restart the operation. If he ran now, took the satchel, he could be across the Vistula River by dawn. The resistance would shelter him. In a month, he could be producing documents again, but Sarah would die, and so would her child. He could give her the papers and destroy everything else. Buy her 12 hours to reach the safe house in Podgórze. But the moment the Gestapo arrived and found his workshop destroyed, they'd know he'd been warned. They'd flood the streets with patrols. Sarah wouldn't make it 6 blocks. The third option sat like a stone in his chest. Give her the papers, leave everything else intact, let the Gestapo come and find him here in the workshop, as if nothing was wrong. Pretend he knew nothing about Tomasz's arrest. Act surprised when they kicked down the door. They would torture him, of course. Everyone got tortured. But Józef could last. He thought he could last. Long enough. Give Sarah a full day's head start. Maybe 2, if he was convincing enough in his ignorance. If his screams sounded authentic enough. And then they would kill him. But the network might survive. If he played the role of ignorant craftsman, if he died before revealing anything, the Gestapo might believe him to be a lone operator. The printing press, the photography studio, the suppliers, all of it might continue. Józef picked up the document. His hand moved to the edge, ready to tear it in half. Destroy it, destroy everything. Run, rebuild, save hundreds more over the next year. The logical choice, the strategic choice. But his hand wouldn't move. He thought of Rachel, how she'd stepped forward when they'd come for their daughter, how she'd made her choice in an instant, knowing what it would cost. Józef folded the document carefully and placed it in an envelope. When he climbed the stairs, Sarah was pacing near the window, rocking the baby. She turned, and he saw the question in her eyes before she asked it. "The address is written inside," Józef said, handing her the envelope. "Memorize it, then burn the paper. Go to the basement entrance on Miodowa Street. 3 knocks, pause, 2 knocks. They'll be expecting you. Move quickly, but don't run. Running attracts attention." Sarah clutched the envelope, tears streaming down her face. "Thank you. God bless you. I don't know how to—" "Don't thank me," Józef said. "Just go, now." She moved toward the door, then hesitated. "What about you?" "I have work to finish." "But if they're coming—" "They're always coming," Józef said. "Go." He waited until her footsteps faded before returning to the workshop. The space suddenly felt larger, emptier. Józef lit another lamp and surveyed his materials. The printing press, disassembled and hidden inside a false-backed cabinet. The photography equipment disguised as a simple portrait studio setup. The inks, the papers, the stamps. All of it representing 2 years of meticulous work. He could destroy it all in 30 minutes. Instead, Józef sat at his desk and began working on a new document. Not because he believed he had time. Not because he thought the Gestapo wouldn't come, but because this was who he had become. A man who made papers while the world burned, who drew careful lines and affixed precise stamps because those small acts of defiance were all he had left. The document was for a man named David Weiss, a teacher from Podgorza. Józef had promised it by Friday. It was Tuesday night. As his pen moved across the paper, Józef allowed himself to imagine Sarah making it to the safe house. He pictured her on a train heading south, papers inspected and approved, her baby quiet in her arms. He saw her reaching the Hungarian border, then Palestine, then somewhere, anywhere beyond the reach of the Reich. The fantasy sustained him for 20 minutes. Then the door upstairs exploded inward. Józef's pen didn't waver. He finished the line he was drawing, set the pen down carefully, and waited. Heavy boots on the floorboards above, shouting in German, the crash of furniture being overturned. They were being thorough. He had perhaps 2 minutes. Józef looked at David Weiss's incomplete document. He'd gotten the photograph mounted and the basic information filled in. Another hour of work would have finished it. "I'm sorry," he whispered. The basement door opened. Light flooded down the stairs, followed by 3 SS officers with weapons drawn. Behind them, an officer in a long leather coat descended slowly, surveying the workshop with the careful attention of a man who appreciated good craftsmanship. "Herr Kowalski," the officer said in perfect Polish. "Hauptsturmführer Weber, we've been looking for you." Józef stood, hands visible, posture neutral. "I don't understand. I run a printing business. If there's some licensing issue—" "Please," Weber interrupted. "We both know what you are." He picked up David Weiss's incomplete document, studied it with professional interest. "Quite good work, actually. The detail on this stamp, very impressive. Where did you learn this skill?" "I don't know what that is," Józef said. Someone must have broken in and... The blow came fast, a rifle butt to his stomach. Józef collapsed, gasping. Weber crouched beside him. We arrested your associate Tomasz this morning. He was very helpful. He told us about your operation, your network, your contacts. He paused. He told us you were warned hours ago, and yet here you are, working calmly in your little workshop. Why didn't you run? Józef said nothing. Perhaps you're stupid, Weber continued, or perhaps you're a hero, buying time for someone. Did you send someone away tonight, Herr Kowalski? Did you give them papers? Still, Józef remained silent. Weber stood. Take him to Pomorska Street. Bring everything, the equipment, the documents, all of it. I want a full inventory. As they dragged him up the stairs, Józef caught a glimpse of the clock on the wall. 11:47 p.m. Sarah had a 7-hour head start now. By dawn, she could be in Tarnów. By tomorrow night, across the border. It might be enough. They threw him into the back of a truck. As it pulled away from Soroka Street, Józef allowed himself one final calculation. If they interrogated him for 12 hours, Sarah would have 19 hours total. If he could last 24 hours, she'd have a full day and a half. Every hour he held out was another hour of distance, another layer of safety between her and the men who would kill her. The mathematics of martyrdom. At Pomorska Street, they took him to the basement. Józef had heard stories about this place. Everyone had. The screams that echoed through the building, the prisoners who emerged broken or didn't emerge at all. Weber personally supervised his interrogation. They started with questions, names, addresses, contacts. How many documents had he produced? Who supplied his materials? Where were the safe houses? Józef gave them nothing. Then they started with pain. He'd imagined, in his darker moments, that he would be brave, that he would withstand torture through sheer force of will, through thoughts of his dead family, through commitment to the cause. The reality was simpler and more terrible. There was no bravery, only endurance, no noble defiance, only the grinding determination to last one more minute, then another, then another. His screams were real, his agony was complete. But beneath it all, in the small part of his mind that remained detached and calculating, Józef counted hours. 1 hour. Sarah would be in Podgórze now. 3 hours. She'd be leaving the city. 6 hours. Possibly on a train, papers checked and accepted. They broke 2 of his fingers. 8 hours. Over the Carpathian foothills, they burned him with cigarettes. 12 hours. The Hungarian border, maybe. Maybe. At hour 14, Weber returned. You're quite resilient, he said, almost admiringly. Most men break much faster, but everyone breaks eventually, Herr Kowalski. Everyone. So let me offer you something. He placed a photograph on the table in front of Józef. It showed Sarah Lewin being led off a train by Wehrmacht soldiers. Józef's heart stopped. We caught her at the Zakopane checkpoint, Weber said. Her papers were excellent, truly masterful work, but we'd already alerted all stations to watch for a young woman with an infant. She never had a chance. He lit a cigarette, offered it to Józef. When Józef didn't respond, Weber smoked it himself. Here's what I don't understand, Weber continued. You stayed. You could have run, but you stayed. You endured all of this, he gestured at Józef's broken body, to give her a head start. And for what? We caught her anyway. Your sacrifice was meaningless. Józef looked at the photograph. Sarah's face was turned away from the camera, but he could see the way she clutched her baby. So tell me, Weber said, was it worth it? Dying for nothing? For a long moment, Józef said nothing. Then through broken teeth he whispered, You're lying. Weber raised an eyebrow. The photograph, Józef continued, his voice getting stronger. It's old. Look at her clothes. She's wearing the coat from when I took her photograph 6 months ago. You don't have her. You're showing me an old picture and hoping I'll believe you caught her. Weber's expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes. Józef started laughing. It hurt. Everything hurt. But he laughed anyway. She made it, he said. She actually made it. Weber stood abruptly. We'll see. When we dismantle your entire network, When we round up everyone you've helped, when we hang them all in plaques Godi, we'll see if your sacrifice meant anything." But Józef had stopped listening. 19 hours now. Sarah could be anywhere, and even if they caught her tomorrow or next week, she'd had 19 hours of freedom. 19 hours when her baby breathed free air. 19 hours when they were alive and moving and hoping. In the calculus of war, in the brutal arithmetic of occupation, 19 hours was everything. They shot him the next morning in the courtyard of Montelupice prison, along with 6 other resistance members. Józef Kowalski died at 6:42 a.m. on March 16, 1944. Sarah Lewin reached Budapest on March 18th. By April, she and her daughter were in Palestine. The baby, who would later take the name Ruth, would grow up to become a teacher in Haifa. She never knew the name of the man who gave them life. But sometimes, on quiet evenings, Ruth's mother would tell her about a forger in Kraków who'd given them papers when he should have run, who'd stayed when he should have hidden, who'd chosen one life over his own without hesitation. "There were many heroes in the war," Sarah would say, "but most of them died in silence, doing quiet things that no one remembered." The resistance network in Kraków was damaged but not destroyed. The printing press was never found. Józef had hidden it too well. By summer, new forgers were operating, using his techniques, saving new lives. David Weiss received his completed papers on March 20th, 4 days late. He never learned why. The mathematics of martyrdom are simple in the end. One life, freely given, can buy time for others. Not certainty, not safety, just time. And sometimes in war, time is the only miracle possible.